11 intriguing facts you may not know, but that surround the history of this magnificent ship. So if you're a fan and love all the Titanic's curiosities, stick with us until the end and participate. Be sure to subscribe and activate the notification bell, leave your like, and share the Brugger Filmes channel with your friends. Well, now that you've subscribed and left your like, let's go! Lives lost even before the shipwreck. The Titanic had become the largest movable object ever made by man. It was 882 feet long and 92 feet wide, with a height of 175 feet from the bottom of the hull to the top of the funnels. 14,000 workers were employed at the Harland and Wolff shipyard. And during the 26 months of the ship's construction, there were 28 serious accidents and 218 minor accidents. However, 8 workers lost their lives. A 43-year-old carpenter named James Dobbin was killed on the day of Titanic's launch. Dobbin was crushed during the process of removing the wooden supports that held the ship. A film that cost a fortune. The construction of the ship took almost 3 years to complete and is estimated to have cost around $220 million, adjusted for today's currency. The 1997 film took just over a year to complete and cost around $360 million, also adjusted. The Titanic remained at the top of the highest-grossing films in cinema history for 12 years and only lost its position to the movie Avatar, also directed by James Cameron. Fame after the shipwreck. American silent film actress Dorothy Gibson was aboard the Titanic and survived the shipwreck. She starred in a film called Saved from the Titanic, which was released just a month after the tragedy. She became famous for wearing, in the film, the same clothes and shoes she wore during the actual sinking. Another survivor, Lawrence Beesley, tried to disrupt the filming of the 1958 movie A Night to Remember because he wanted symbolically to sink with the ship. Beesley was on the film set and reportedly tried to jump into the scene depicting the Titanic sinking, but was stopped by director Roy Baker. Have you already left your like? Don't miss out on participating and subscribing to the channel. Now, check out this story. A deceased deserter. One of the musicians on the ship was not officially declared dead until the year 2000. Roger Brugger was a member of the Titanic Orchestra and was only 21 years old when he died during the shipwreck. However, Brugger was not officially declared dead until the year 2000, even though all musicians had died on April 15, 1912. The French army even called him a deserter when he did not appear in 1914 to serve in World War I. The French Titanic Association worked to clear his name and officially laid Brugger to rest 88 years after the Titanic's sinking. A Millionaire Key. We all know that the lookouts Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee did not have access to binoculars during the journey, and therefore could not see very far. There was a second officer who was replaced at the last minute and forgot to hand over the key to the locker that held the binoculars. The key resurfaced in an auction in 2010, where it was sold for over $130,000. Fleet was the lookout who shouted the words, "Iceberg, right ahead." He survived the shipwreck, but tragically took his own life in 1965 after his wife's death. On the Titanic's centenary, a prankster removed a wreath from his gravestone and replaced it with a pair of binoculars, along with a note apologizing for the delay. Well, have you already left your like and subscribed to the channel? Then check out this story, fake news from the time. In the rush to publish a headline about the disaster, several newspapers jumped the gun and gave families and loved ones false hopes. Around 3 o'clock in the morning of April 15th, the first news about the Titanic arrived, reporting only a collision with an iceberg. At 8 o'clock, the responsible parties from White Star Line announced that passengers were being collected in lifeboats and that there was no risk of loss of life and that the ship was not at risk of sinking. So in the early publications of the day, the newspaper World reported that there were no deaths, and the Daily Mail and the Belfast Telegraph declared, "No danger of loss of lives." Around 11 o'clock, another contradictory news arrived at the company's headquarters. 2 ships are providing assistance to Titanic and the passengers have been taken off. At 12:27, a new update arrived. Finally, all passengers are saved, and Titanic is being towed by the Virginian. At 2 o'clock, the world was astonished when the first message arrived, reporting the true events with the following message. Carpathia reached the Titanic's position at daybreak. It only found a few lifeboats and debris. Around 700 people saved, crewmen, women, and children. The press then began to correct the false news by updating the facts. Luck or misfortune? The commissioner and nurse Violet Jessup, only 25 years old, survived the Titanic's sinking. Without being discouraged by this tragedy, she began working on the Britannic, nicknamed Titanic II. In 1916, the Britannic encountered a mine that had been planted by a German submarine. Violet escaped another shipwreck, but this time with a serious head injury that would affect her for the rest of her life. Our survivor then passed away at 83 from heart failure. And you? Would you board another ocean liner after surviving a shipwreck? Tell us, we want to know. Life Imitates Art, a novel called Futility by American author Morgan Robertson, was published 14 years before the Titanic's departure and seemed to have predicted the disaster. According to Time, there are a startling number of similarities between the shipwreck in Futility and the real-life Titanic. First, the names of the ships, Titan versus Titanic. They would also be almost the same size, and both sank in April due to an iceberg. Both ships were described as unsinkable, and unfortunately, both did not have enough lifeboats for everyone. The author was accused of being a seer, but he explained that the strange similarities were simply a product of his imagination, saying, "I know what I'm writing about, that's all." An Iceman. One of the survivors, cook Charles Jugan, reported that he consumed nearly 2 bottles of whiskey before entering the freezing ocean. He survived for at least 2 hours awaiting rescue, while most people died of hypothermia within 15 minutes. The 6 disappeared. 6 Chinese passengers survived the shipwreck but were barred from entering the United States under an immigration law and were put on a cargo ship bound for Cuba. One of these men, Fang Lang, even inspired a scene in James Cameron's Titanic. He was rescued from the water by the only returning lifeboat, but the scene was later cut from the film. A humiliated survivor. Of the more than 700 survivors, only one was Japanese. When he returned home, he was ridiculed for not having sunk with the ship and condemned to ostracism. He was called dishonorable in his home country and accused of dressing as a woman to gain access to a lifeboat. What do you think of Hosono's actions? Would you dress as a woman to survive the shipwreck? Or would you condemn such a feat? Comment below. We want to hear your opinion. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed the facts we brought here. If you know any stories we didn't tell, write them in the comments. We want to know. Once again, thank you very much for participating in the Brugger Filmes channel. If you liked the video, leave your like, subscribe, and share our channel with your friends. We're always producing new content for you, so watch the other videos or wait for the next production. A big hug, and see you next time.